All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays. Like working your faces. Grace at the field, so time for laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the All Sports All Plays Network. My name's Will Polson. Alongside with me today are Nate the Great and Sarge himself. Fellas, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great.
I'm excited. There's a lot to talk about today, so I'm excited.
Good. We do have quite a bit to talk about today. Welcome if this is your first time being here. This is the Monday Night Sports Corner, where we kind of, in a short little hour's time, we're going to wrap up a little bit about all of the hot topics in sports right now. But before we get into that, let's talk about how you can become our viewer of the month. Nate, could you go ahead and break that down on how you could become the viewer of the month for ASAP?
So just to become the viewer of the month, you can watch the show, you can get engaged to the show, you can follow the show, and you can, by doing all that, you can just win a free t-shirt. How simple is it to get a t-shirt for free by doing that?
I tell you what, it's about as easy as that. Be down there in the comment section, like, follow, do everything you can to build the brand.
Just do what Landon's doing right now with his Roll Tide comments.
Every comment counts. You could just spam just like that the whole time, and you'll find your way up there in the ranking. I'll tell you what.
Yes,
but yeah, just do just like that. I mean, great example, Landon. You're doing great. But obviously, Landon, part of the network, can't win a t-shirt, but you can at home if you are not part of ASAP. So go ahead and try to get yourself in the running. If not, go ahead and message one of us. You could go ahead and message any of us or anybody here on the network. $14.99 plus shipping and handling, and you can get your very own ASAP Network t-shirt ASAP. But let's jump right into the topics today. We got a lot to cover here in only an hour's time. So let's hop into the biggest news of the day. It just got done, ended the final just happened. The national championship where Ohio State ultimately falls. And roll tide roll. Alabama 52-24 over number 3 ranked Ohio State. Sarge, I'm going to go to you first. What were your thoughts watching this game, looking at the final score, everything involved?
My final thoughts was I thought I was playing Madden, to be honest with you. I had my thoughts on OSU being in the top 5 anyways, only playing 5 games in the regular season, but Mac Jones, he was a beast out there, got a little banged up, and I mean, Alabama has just so many weapons that they can go to. It just wasn't even fair, and it just showed that Ohio State defense just got tired. Even they didn't even need the Heisman Trophy winner there to even win this game.
Nate, are you shocked at all, or is this kind of the outcome you expected?
If you asked me that question on Wednesday during Sports Minute, well, in the comment section, if you asked me during that, I would probably be shocked if this happened during then. But I did some research a little bit today. There were a lot of players on the Ohio State side that weren't playing this game for COVID-related reasons. So, no, I kind of wasn't in a way. Now, for me, my thoughts on this game is, one, they did the right call for getting Devontae Smith, having him getting the Heisman. And two, I'm sorry, but Trevor Lawrence is probably going to get that number 1 spot.
I was going to ask along that because, we talking about Ohio State first. Obviously, they were missing a couple of players that came out right before the game. That some players were going to be missing due to COVID. We also saw Trey Sermon go down in the game. T's and P's to you and your family. Hope Trey Sermon is okay, and everybody involved. But there was some talks after the way Justin Fields played against Clemson that he could potentially be the number one pick and kind of fight for that a little bit. Sarge, we heard Nate's opinion on that. Do you think Trevor Lawrence is still the consensus number one, or do you think Justin Fields can still kind of fight him for it?
I think Lawrence is still going to be number one. I've actually been reading some reports that actually Fields could be going to number 8 to my team, which is the Carolina Panthers. Lawrence, I think you could put him in any system, to be honest with you, and he'll just be just fine.
All right. I see a question down there from Madison Ewan. Do you all think that Ohio State would have done better if they had the same amount of games as Bama? Yeah. See Sarge giving an instant no. I think Ohio State, this is a great program. I think this is a great team. But I think they kind of showed that they deserve to be there after beating Clemson. Losing 24-52 to Alabama, it's Bama. Bama is always going to be there. Bama is always up there. Sure, they weren't there last year, but they were just on the outsides. But otherwise, Nick Saban runs a pretty consistent program out there. Ohio State, I think, got off a little bit luckier that they didn't play as many games. Your legs are fresher. You don't have a chance for as many injuries. I think it was a better look for Ohio State to get as far as they did. I think with a longer season, they may have even struggled a little bit more. We saw them play Northwestern close. We saw them play Indiana pretty close throughout the regular season. Honestly, Ohio State had a little bit of struggles during the regular season, but they ultimately they came out. I thought this game was going to be closer. I thought it was at least going to be a dogfight, a little bit more of a back and forth. I definitely would have taken the over. Thank God Alabama helped me out on that. But whenever it came down to it, I expected more than 24. But Justin Fields, we talked about Mac Jones. Mac Jones, 36 for 45, 464, and 5 touchdowns. Absolutely disgusting numbers. But Justin Fields goes out there and throws 50% for 194 and a touch. That's just not going to cut it. I mean, you're out there. It's the national championship. I understand it's Bama. They put out a lot of prospects, but you got to do better than that. You got to have more than 200, especially if your main back goes down. I mean, it just wasn't there for Ohio State tonight. So
Devontae Smith caught more receiving yards than Justin Fields threw for number of passing yards.
That is accurate. The 215 for Devonta Smith over there, the Heisman winner. Congratulations to him. Absolute dominance. I mean, he got injured later on in the game, I want to say, but he, like Sarge said, it really was looking at a point like you didn't even really need him out there. Sure, he had 3 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, he played an absolute pivotal spot in this game, but man, I mean, Alabama just played on a different level today. The fact that you're putting up 52 at a national championship, I mean, that just lets you know what kind of level this Alabama team is on, and that's why they put out so many prospects. So, any closing thoughts going into the next topics, or is that all we got on the national championship?
One thing in my mind is like one play that was actually highlighted during the game was Christian Boardman, the defensive tackle for Alabama. He was just a hog molly, just stuck in the middle right there. And also, I want to point out, like, what would you take? Who would you take last year's LSU versus this year's Alabama?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man, honestly, I think I'd take this year's Alabama. I think they're just more complete. I think they have more weapons. Yeah, sure. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he was phenomenal. Justin Jefferson, phenomenal. Joe Burrow, obviously, they have their names, but this Alabama team, even on their depths, can still come out and hurt you. I mean, Najee Harris was phenomenal today, 2 rushing touchdowns for him. Mac Jones has been playing out of his mind. 5 touchdowns to no picks. Great game. Devonta Smith, a Heisman winner at wide receiver. When was the last time you heard that? It's been a while. And the defensive products, I think the defensive products are a little bit more complete on the Alabama side between Patrick Surtain and everybody else that's out there. I mean, I just think overall for team-wise, if I could take plus you got to think Jalen Waddle's not even healthy. This could have been an even more dangerous Alabama team. I mean, this isn't even Alabama to their full extent. That's the scary part. And so, yeah, I think I'd have to take Alabama just because their wide receivers 1 through 3 could all go in the first round. Like it's phenomenal. Mac Jones has made an argument to go in the first. Whether or not it's going to pay off at the upper level, sure, but he's put up the numbers to do so. They're going to put out a lot of talent this year, and it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be great just to see the new wave of prospects, just like we do every year. So it'll be interesting. Nate, any closing thoughts on the
actually, I was actually going to answer Serge's question. If you ask me between Joe Burrow and Mac Jones, I'd probably go with Joe Burrow, but that team and as a whole, I would go with Alabama for wide receivers alone. I mean,
yeah, I think I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. All right, Nate, go ahead, flip it on. I know we're getting ready to go into the NFL games, the divisional rounds. We got the 4 matchups that we have here. Starting off on the NFC side of things, the Los Angeles Rams will be visiting Lambeau Field to take on the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers. Let me get a prediction from the game, Nate.
For me, I'm probably gonna go with the Green Bay Packers. I'm gonna stick to what I've been saying all season long. Aaron Rodgers, I know he has that one typical game in the playoffs that he typically chokes, but we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like for the Los Angeles Rams, and that defensive side too. I mean, you do have a Davante Adams, but that's not the only weapon that they have. And with Davante Adams hurt, which that's not going to be the case this year, but in this game, but Davante Adams hurt, Aaron Rodgers just won all of those games. So I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers over the Los Angeles Rams.
Sarge, where do you sit with Rams versus Packers?
Oh, it better be more exciting than the Rams versus Seahawks. I mean, that was a napper.
That was a terrible game.
But it was terrible. I gotta agree with Nate. I don't know what's going on with the quarterback situation. I don't think it's gonna matter no matter what if you have broken thumb Goff or John the investment Wolfer out there. I don't think anything is gonna happen. I think Aaron Donald is gonna be fine, even though with the ribs. And I just want to say, hey, Zach Ness, welcome to the show. First comment. But I got to admit with the Rams, Morgan Fox, he subbed in for Aaron Donald when he was out, and he actually did a pretty decent job against the Seahawks as a replacement for Aaron Donald. But I'm going with Green Bay on this one.
Who would have thought learning behind Aaron Donald might pay off for you? But I tell you what, oh God, I answered this question on Sports Minute.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I have more hatred because of an unbiased sports fan. When it comes down, I have to appreciate greatness, and I hate Goff more just because. I mean, I do hate Goff more. I hate what Aaron Rodgers does to my Bears every single year, but I hate Goff more. I just hate him so much. But I'm going to be different, which is weird. I'm going to go with the Rams, and here's why. This Rams defense is phenomenal, okay? And the Packers defense really struggles against the run. Cam Akers is a phenomenal running back. We saw him do very well against Seattle. We've seen him do good throughout the regular season. Cam Akers is a very good running back. And honestly, whenever I'm looking at this, I think the Rams could possibly be the worst matchup for the Packers because their defense, their secondary is nothing to be excited about going against. And yeah, they have Davante Adams. Sure, you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but he's good for at least 3 drops a game. Trust me, I went to USF. I covered him. I saw the guy play. The guy's got concrete hands. He really does. He's very inconsistent when it comes to catching the ball, which is really tough as a wide receiver. And whenever it comes after that, I mean, it's Allen Lazard who can be covered. He's nothing to write home about. And Jalen Ramsey's going to be on Davante Adams all night long. And that man is Alcatraz as a cornerback. I mean, there is no getting past him. He's played absolutely phenomenal. Go check the numbers he's allowed against star wide receivers this year. He has been absolutely locked down, and I just think the Rams can get it done. I hate Jared Goff with a passion. I know he plays like crap in cold weather. I know he's absolutely abysmal if it's under 60 degrees, and I can promise you it's not going to be 60 degrees in Lambeau. But I think this is a defensive nightmare for the Packers. I really do. I think the Rams can find a way to sneak this out. I think they can make just enough offense work. I think Cam Akers is going to have a lot to throw on his back, but I don't know why I'm feeling the Rams. I really am. So, let's go on to the next one. The other NFC matchup, it should be the combination of the Bucks and Saints. Bucks and Saints taking on each other for the third time this year. So far, Drew Brees has Tom Brady's number, and it by a lot. I mean, they have week one, they looked a little rough. Week whatever they played next, the second time was even worse. The Saints are coming off of a kind of lackluster win over the Bears, and the Bucks are honestly kind of the same against Washington. They looked a little lackluster over them, especially whenever they were running Taylor Heineke. So this could be interesting. Sarge, what are you looking at in this game? Who do you have?
What I'm looking at is why it's on Fox and then instead of the History Channel. They got two old guys going after each other. Right there. So that's what's going on. I'm gonna disagree with Zach on here. The Saints choked the playoffs and Brady thighs. Guess what? I'm gonna have to take the Tampa Bay on this one. Ronald Jones, he's a little bit banged up, but I think he's gonna be there. And I believe the Saints are a little bit more banged up than the Tampa Bay is, and it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. I have a hard time going against that guy, even though I dislike him.
Nate, where do you sit on this game?
Sarge, I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Mm.
The second matchup, they scored the same number of points against New Orleans Saints than Denver Broncos did against the same team. And Denver Broncos had no quarterback that game.
This guy knows about his Denver Broncos now.
And the Bucks team has struggled both times, and I get that that playing a third game, a playoff game against a divisional opponent, is hard. It is hard to pull off the victory. As a matter of fact, only two NFC teams have done it: the Cowboys against the Eagles, and the Saints did it against the Carolina Panthers. But the Saints have done it once, so the Saints will do it again. I got the Saints, and I got the Saints by at least 10 points.
Doesn't take much against the Panthers.
That was back when the Panthers were solid, I think. Who knows? That was probably Cam Newton Panthers, because otherwise they're not good.
Yes.
But I mean, when other time they go into the playoffs. But whenever we're talking about this game, yeah, it's a History Channel debate. It really should be sponsored by them. This is like Stonehenge versus the Pyramids of Giza. It's kind of gross to watch, but I hate to say it, but it has to be said. Drew Brees is not Drew Brees anymore. He's just not. Whenever you watch him play, his arm's not as explosive. I mean, he's still the same. He's still the same audible. He's still the same quarterback genius whenever it comes to the line of scrimmage. I mean, the guy is absolutely phenomenal behind the line and under center. But whenever it comes to the actual arm talent and it comes to everything like that, I mean, the guy's in his 40s. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he shouldn't be where he's at. He shouldn't be at the same level. But it's noticeable. Tom Brady, it's still not really noticeable, to be completely honest. I mean, he's still throwing deep balls. He's still connecting well. He's still got plenty of weapons out there. The defense, bearing that they should be back for COVID and Shaq Barrett, and I can't recall the other piece they're missing right off the top of my head, but they should be getting their defensive pieces back from COVID. I mean, it's on the road, which they played them closer in New Orleans than they did at Tampa Bay. So I guess it doesn't really make too much of a difference. It's just something's leaning Bucks. It's Tom Brady in the playoffs. And it's just this team is on paper. This team is a top 2, maybe 3 team. There's no reason that the Bucks don't win. And like the Saints are a good team. Don't get me wrong, but they really underperformed against Chicago. They should have blew them out of the water, if we're going to be completely honest. The Bears made a lot of mistakes. The Bears had 9 penalties. The Bears only had 1 conversion on 3rd down, and it was at the end of the 4th quarter. The Bears played terrible. And the fact that it was close, or at least a manageable game all the way up into the 4th, speaks a little bit on the Saints. I think the Bucs will be able to shut down Kamara a little bit, at least kind of slow him down, hinder him just enough to put the game in Drew's hands. And I think after that, I mean, it's playoff Drew versus playoff Brady, and I'm taking playoff Brady every time. So I'm going to go with Brady on this one. Any closing thoughts on this matchup?
All I gotta say is Drew Brees. He has not been the same since he got injured, that rib injury. I just haven't seen him being the same like ever since he came back. He's not the same Drew Brees.
I mean, the guy fractured 11 ribs and collapsed a lung. I wouldn't be the same either. Anytime pressure comes, I'd quiver. I'd hit the ground.
Our guy has been playing for a very long time. I wouldn't be the same after 2.
Right. We saw Zach in the comment section going with the Bucs on this one. We also see Madison down there going with the Bucs. She said that since I'm going to be working the Super Bowl here, hey, congratulations, Super Bowl in Tampa. She's down there going to school out there. She's going to be working the Super Bowl. That's very, very awesome. Congratulations to you. So we'll go ahead. We'll flip the next one. Plus, how awesome would it be to have a Tampa Bay Bucs team at home in the Super Bowl? Phenomenal.
That'd be awesome in Madison. It would be awesome to get tickets. Just saying.
Yeah, right? If only. Yeah. Going to the AFC side of things, as the Cleveland Browns will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Cleveland Browns coming off of for a game, for lack of a better words. It was very interesting, to say the least. Kansas City coming off their bye. They will be the playoffs have to run through Arrowhead, at least as of right now. Already Pat Mahomes, a Super Bowl win already to his belt. And Baker Mayfield, as Nate had informed us today, Baker Mayfield is the oldest AFC quarterback right now remaining in the playoffs at 26 years old. That is phenomenal that the youth movement is that crazy out in the AFC. There's a 26-year-old quarterback, 2 25-year-old quarterbacks, and then Baker's 25. Baker turns 26 in April. So it's 2 25s in these 2 quarterbacks right here. Josh Allen's 24, and Lamar just turned 23, and so it's ridiculous. I mean, it's such a youth movement out there in the AFC. We're gonna see Baker versus Pat on this upcoming game, an interesting game, like I said, for Cleveland over the Steelers, and we'll see what Kansas City can do in the playoffs. Tim, I'll start with you. Who do you have in this game?
Unfortunately, I have to take the Kansas City Chiefs on this one, even though that the Browns did phenomenal against the Steelers, but you gotta look. Steelers were missing Bud Dupree and Devin Bush as well, but the Browns put up pretty close to that many points against Baltimore as well. But we saw how Baltimore battled back, and you got the same type of quarterback with Kansas City. So sorry, Cinderella, it struck midnight with glass slippers on the stairs. No Prince Charming.
It looks like Zach and Madison in the comment section are there agreeing with you, also going with Kansas City. Nate, we'll turn it over to you. Who do you have in this game? You're not. You're going Cleveland.
Browns. I'm going to go with Browns. I said this. I said this since week 10 and week 11. My hot take has been looking really good. I said the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs are not going to win a playoff game this year. Kansas City has been keeping games very, very close, only scoring 17 points against the Atlanta Falcons. We saw in the Denver Broncos Kansas City game that Denver has almost been able to figure out how to stop the Kansas City team by using a very good running game. And the Browns have 2 better running backs than Denver does. I have a very high scoring game, but I'm going to go Browns 49-48.
I love this comment down here from Zach that just came in. KC hasn't won by more than 1 possession since week 8. It should be close, but KC is clutch. That's the thing, is that Kansas City, no matter what, is still getting it done. No matter if you need it in the last minute, if you need it in the last 30 seconds, any time is too much time for number 15 in red on this screen right now. If you leave any time on the clock for Pat Mahomes to make something happen, he's made it happen. There hasn't been many games in which you're beating the Kansas City Chiefs with the ball in the Chiefs' hands at the end of the game. I mean, they had one loss this season, or two losses. Sorry, two. They did lose that final week whenever they sat all their starters. Congrats. But their one loss this year was against the Vegas Raiders in a game that upset the planet. I mean, it really threw everybody for a loop, a close game, and yet they played them close again. That's what divisional rivals do. But Kansas City gets it done, and they do. They're just so clutch. They have that it factor. They make it happen. And here's the thing. If you really look at it, Cleveland didn't win. Pittsburgh lost. Pittsburgh played awful. And I mean, they had a snap past Big Ben to start the game that immediately resulted in a touchdown, 4 interceptions from Big Ben. I can tell you this Browns defense is not getting 4 interceptions on Pat Mahomes. You may see a bad snap. I'm not going to say that's not going to happen. But Pat Mahomes threw, 5 interceptions all season? 6? He's not 5. He's not throwing 4 in a game. He threw 3 against Miami. But Miami's secondary is so much superior to Cleveland's. I mean, Xavier Howard led the NFL in picks. Byron Jones is an amazing cornerback. It's just there's no way. There's no way. I can't see a world in which Cleveland wins this game. Great Cinderella story by Cleveland. I love the running back duo, Chubb and Hunt. They've been absolutely phenomenal this year. Baker is probably, honestly, in my opinion, the best play action quarterback in the NFL just because he sells it so well. And I mean, you have to respect the run game. He's been doing phenomenal. He stepped out into his shell a little bit this season. But I think the Cinderella run, as Sarge put it, the Cinderella run comes to an end here. You look like you had a point to add to that whenever I mentioned the Miami game. What was that, Nate?
All of those interceptions happened before the 8-minute mark in the first quarter in the Dolphins game, which is why I'm not trusting Patrick Mahomes heading into this game. All
of them came before the 8-minute mark?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly why I am trusting him. You mean to tell me that he's not the greatest quarterback and before 8 minutes, but after that he's just efficient? I'm taking that. That sounds like 3 quarters of good football to me. You may have messed up the first quarter, but hey, we saw the Steelers mess up the first quarter and almost found a way to come back. I mean, it's I don't know. I just can't see Kansas City playing worse ball than what Pittsburgh played because I'm sorry, Madison. I saw her in the comment section say, shut up about it already. I'm sorry, but you really did. I mean, the Steelers really just lost themselves. They really did. It wasn't – Cleveland played great. Props to them. They got their offense. They did what they had to do because they're not stopping anybody on defense. That got proven. 4 picks and you still allow almost 40 points. That's terrible. But whenever it comes down to it, if you're getting 4 interceptions, if you have the ball if you're getting the ball that much, and you got a defensive touchdown on the crappy snap, Kansas City's going to obliterate that defense because they still were on the field most of the game because Pittsburgh still had ball advantage most of the time. So I think they're a little bit worn out. I don't think Kansas City will even be concerned. So let's move on to the next game, the other AFC matchup that is going to be taking on in there. Bills Mafia, baby. Taking on the Baltimore Ravens at Buffalo. Lamar versus Josh Allen, the reigning MVP versus a guy who will probably receive MVP votes. Probably not the MVP, but a guy who would definitely deserve some recognition this year. Definitely stepped into his own, played phenomenal. I'm going to start with you, Nate. What are you looking at in this game? Who do you get?
For the Ravens, both times that they won the Super Bowl and made it all the way, they made it out to the 6th seed. I'm not saying that that's going to happen this time because that Buffalo's Bills offense outside the running game has been phenomenal. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs is probably the best quarterback wide receiver combo in the league. I have the Bills because of that offense.
Alrighty. Sarge, I'll turn it over to you. Ravens, Bills, who are you looking at?
All I gotta say, no one circles the Wiggins like the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You only have to do is stop Jackson. That's all you got to do. I mean, it's that simple because we know that he can't throw under pressure. All he can do is run it. Once you stop him, it is game over. The Bills are going to trample them. I'm going to say it's going to be close. It's going to be close. It's going to be 31-29. It's going to be the final. And I would have to agree with Zach right there. This could be one of the best games of the weekend, if not the playoffs.
I think this could be. This has game of the year potential on it. I think so. The one thing that makes me lean the Bills, other than the fact that nobody circles the wagons like them, would be the fact that we saw Baltimore beat Tennessee, and this is a redemption game for Lamar. Lamar lost to Tennessee in the first round last year. They were in the second round because they got a bye, I think. But whenever it came down to it, Lamar got his first playoff win. This is big for him. We talked about it on Real Talk today. This is a big step for Lamar. But Lamar, this team, on the defensive side of things, let's look at it that way. The Ravens did phenomenal in stopping Derrick Henry. But there's no running back to stop in Buffalo. You got to stop 17. And whenever it comes down to it, they're just more successful at stopping the run. And that's not the concern. The concern is going to be Humphrey on Diggs. And can Humphrey keep up with Diggs all game? Because Diggs is a phenomenal receiver, underrated. I still think underrated even after this season. I mean, we saw who he is this season. He really stepped out into his own. It's nice to see a quarterback be able to hit him. Kirk Cousins low-key kind of slowing him down. But they also had a little bit more to pass to. He also had Adam Thielen. He had Kyle Rudolph. So a little bit more weapons. But Josh Allen really made Stephon Diggs shine this year. I think the Bills defense can compete up there with the Baltimore defense. I think that they are a very underrated unit. I think their secondary has stuck together for so long that they're phenomenal in Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, and Jordan Poyer. I love watching them play. They're an underrated front seven as well. There's just a lot of names on the Buffalo Bills that nobody really mentions, but they're just good. They put it together. They're schemed well. They're coached well. They've got that it factor, in my opinion. At the end of the day, like Sarge said, if you can contain Lamar, you've won. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is an amazing running back. He stepped out into his own in his rookie year. He looks great. But the big danger of the Baltimore offense is the legs on number 8. And if you can slow him down, you make them look bad. And that's what the Tennessee Titans did at first. At first, they were able to hold him down, and all it took was a 40-something yard rushing touchdown, and all of a sudden, Baltimore looks right back in it. You know, if you're able to contain Lamar, they're ultimately going to win the game. I think, I'm not too worried about how close they played Indianapolis. Every team that made it in the AFC is phenomenal. The lowest record was 11-5. All right, every team is great. You know, you're going to play teams good, and those Colts have a hell of a defense as well. So it is what it is. I like the Bills' chances. I'm going to go with Buffalo. Nobody circles the wagons. Put them in the AFC Championship. I need to see it. So, closing thoughts on that game? Or are we good to move on?
I just want to tell Madison. I see her little comment there. No one circles the Wiggins. What's Pittsburgh doing right now? They're circling the locker room. That's what they're doing.
Everybody's just throwing it at Madison today. I mean, you shouldn't have made it clear that you were a Steelers fan. Shout out to everybody not hating on the Bears because we were expected to lose. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Landon, go after Landon. He's a Seahawks guy. It's fun.
Oh, it's game on tomorrow with our debate. So
He's saving it. All right. Go ahead and switch it on to the next one. I know that'll be it for football. We got to jump into some big news whenever it comes to baseball. And we may be a little bit late on this topic, but I don't care. We've been meaning to get to this topic, and I am the baseball fanatic. I have been wanting to talk about this and these other moves that we have on here. This changes baseball. 3 words, all you need to know. Yu Darvish, second place in the NL Cy Young Award winning last year. Blake Snell, a former Cy Young Award winner in himself. This is huge. Both going to the same team to tag up with Dinelson Lamet, the most improved player last year. Chris Paddock, second place in Rookie of the Year, his rookie season. And then the fifth guy, well, Mike Clevenger, but he's going to be hurt. So it's going to come down to probably Joey Lucchesi. This is such a phenomenal pitching staff. Sarge, I need to talk to you first. Talk about a little bit, just how much does this mean to San Diego? Like, what do you think this moves them up as to favorites in the NL West? Are you willing to go that far? Or where do you sit right now with the Padres from this move?
I'm going to have to say yes. This moves them completely up front. I mean, you got Yu Darvish, but with that trade with Yu Darvish, you got his personal catcher that came with that trade.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge plus right there. And you got Blake Snell, you know, he got snubbed like throwing 70 pitches, and he was pulled after throwing like a phenomenal game. I mean, come on. But I got to say that the Padres also did an awesome trade with the Yankees this month. They got James Reeves. Yet, even though he's in the minors, but look at his numbers. He'll be a great reliever once he gets up there with that. But also, to go with the infield for the San Diego Padres, I don't know if you guys know this, but Ha-Seong Kim for the Korean Baseball League. He has been playing pro baseball in Korea for about 5 years, and his last year was his best year. He hit about 30 home runs, batted .302, over 138 games, stole 23 bases, only got caught twice. I mean, it has to put them up front. The only thing I can see with the Dodgers is that big hole at third base where they might go after Drew LeMahieu from the Yankees.
I'm concerned about the Dodgers whenever you're talking about that, because not only did they lose Josh Turner, they lost Jock Peterson, which was one of their starting outfielders. They lost Kike Hernandez, who was, I want to say, their starting second baseman. If not, he was the ultimate utility player. He plays everywhere. I mean, currently the Dodgers have not made signings to make you wonder if they're contentions. You know, they were in heavy talks with Francisco Lindor and the Indians, and that didn't fall through. We'll get to that in a minute. You know, and so the Dodgers have a lot of question marks right now, and I don't think their lineup can keep up with San Diego right now. I don't think their rotation can now keep up with them. Nate, I'll get your opinions. What are your thoughts for the San Diego Padres now that they've acquired Darvish and Snell?
I mean, the one problem that I have is not necessarily towards this trade, is that all of these transactions in general have been happening in one conference. It's all going to be competitive, very competitive towards the very end, with the additions of that big pitching staff, all those key losses that you talked about earlier. I agree with Sarge. I think that San Diego is going to go up and take that division title, unlike the last couple of years. But I don't know if they're going to make the World Series, though. We're going to go that route. To go talk about the New York Mets a little bit.
So this is really big in my opinion, the biggest thing about this, that they're both going to San Diego. But other than that, the fact that they're getting sent to San Diego is that they're both closer to home now. You know, obviously San Diego a lot closer to Japan than Chicago whenever it comes down to it. And then Blake Snell's from Seattle. So they're a lot closer to home in that sense. He was playing in Tampa, Florida, about as far away from your home as you could play and still be in the MLB, you know, maybe minus Toronto, you know, and the New York teams. But other than that, I mean, this is going to be big. And I think this is going to be a statement season. And I'm willing to go out on a limb on this. I think Blake Snell is going to have the better year of these two pitchers. I think Blake Snell has a lot to prove now. And I think he's going to go into the game. He's going to go into the season kind of fired up. You know, you get pulled. You're the ace of this staff. And I mean, the bona fide ace. You've been the guy in Tampa Bay for multiple years now, coming off of a Cy Young a couple years ago. You know, the dominant lefty out there sweeping off speed pitches. I mean, absolutely gross. But he just, to get pulled in game 6, less than 70 pitches, allowing only 2 base runners, is baffling. I mean, he struck out 50% of the batters he saw. I mean, what do you want? What do you want, Kevin Cash? Like, please tell me what you want, because I don't care what analytics say. That's a bonehead mistake. You know, I don't care. Third time through the lineup, you know, they bat 3 with Who cares? It's the World Series, and if you lose this game, you're done because they were down 3-2 at that point. You need to win this game, and right now your ace is dealing. And I mean, the best game he's thrown all season against one of the strongest offenses in the MLB. What are you doing, Kevin Cash? It still baffles me to this day that the fact that they even considered it. I mean, ridiculous. They bring in Nick Anderson, who is the kind of the staple guy in the bullpen, and what do you know? 3 pitches later, the game's tied. Smart move. Good job, Kevin Cash. Great manager of the year move. Glad you won it. But good thing those awards come out before the World Series. Let's just all say that. Or no, they don't. Good thing they're only for the regular season. Let's say that. That's a better statement. But yeah, I think the Padres have really become front runners in the NL West, at least until now, because we still have to wait to see what the Dodgers are going to do. Obviously, the offseason is just getting started. We got a couple more moves to get into. In fact, the next one is even, honestly, in my opinion, even bigger because it really, I think it changes the stakes of this division. And Francisco Lindor joining the New York Mets, you want to talk about a guy who's going to come in and add instant fire to this lineup. I mean, this lineup already had it going. Now you add another piece, honestly, a king of consistency in the MLB. Francisco Lindor has been an amazing shortstop. You're going to add him with the likes of Jeff McNeil, Michael Conforto, Peter Alonso. I mean, the list goes on. And not to mention their pitching staff. They're getting Stroman and Syndergaard back. The Mets, the new Mets team, and the addition of James McCann, forgot all about that. The new look Mets are honestly looking really good. They're in a tough division. They really are. But Nate, I'll get your opinion first. I know you told me the like words. I remember on Sports Minute you had the Mets sitting at 5th in the division out of 5. Where do you see the Mets now with Lindor and Carrasco being added to the Mets?
Yeah, like what Will said. I said in the comment section of Sports Minute that I had the Mets at 5. Now that I have them at 2, I think the only team that might have a better season than the New York Mets is the Atlanta Braves. And I love that the additions that were made. I just don't understand why Cleveland got rid of those 2 pieces. I think that's probably more of a dumb move than the Blake Snell move.
Which is fair. I mean, right now the AL Central is very up for grabs. I mean, we're going to get to one of those teams here in a minute, but it is up for grabs. And the Cleveland Indians have now the Cleveland baseball team. We're waiting to hear the new name, but Cleveland has always had a chance at that division. They've always been up there. They've always been front runners, or at least contending in that division, can pull out a wild card spot or something along the lines. But now they've gotten rid of Carrasco. They've gotten rid of Lindor, their franchise guy. The only 2 guys remaining from that 2016 World Series appearing team are now Jose Ramirez and Roberto Perez. Those are the only 2 faces 5 years later who remain on the Cleveland team from 4 years ago whenever they went to the World Series. That's ridiculous. I mean, the turnaround has been absolutely nuts, and I understand that some pieces have to come and go. I know some people have retired, such as a Mike Napoli. I know he's not in the game anymore. But their whole pitching staff that was in that is still in the MLB. Their whole entire lineup, I want to say minus, what is it? No, is Carlos Santana still in the league? I don't know where he's at. Last I checked, he was still in the league. But other than aging players, whenever you have to pay people, and sometimes you don't have the money. But such a turnaround. There's literally 2. You have an active roster of 25, now 26 in the MLB, and you have 2 players remaining just 4 to 5 years later. It's so crazy, the fact that how much a team can change. But I mean, look at the Royals. I mean, the Royals were in the World Series just a couple of years ago and won it. It's weird to say to the Mets. It all comes full circle. Sarge, I'll turn it over to you. What do you think this means for the Mets, Lindor and Carrasco?
First, I got to say, I don't think this would have been possible if Robinson Cano did not get suspended for the whole season, because that was like $24 million to one guy right there. And I'm thankful for Seattle to get rid of that guy. But I saw Lindor play in Seattle, and he was a beast out there, and it was awesome to watch him out there. But I'm just looking at the Mets pitching rotation. You got Stroman, DeGrom, you got Thor, Carrasco. I mean, they have a pretty in-depth starting pitching. Then at the back end of it, in their bullpen, you got Sugar, you got Diaz back there. I mean, even though he struggled the last few seasons, but he's still pretty good. And I'm just going through all their whole entire lineup. You got James McCann, then you got the Polar Bear and Pete. Then I think Lou Gilmore is gonna have a good year. And you got Dominic Smith, who is AKA the Sloth. And yes, I know pretty much all these guys' nicknames. And you got DJ Davis, and I mean, this team is set up for success. I think with Nate, I might have to agree that Atlanta Braves might squeak by to win the East, but it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight.
So, go ahead, Nate.
You said about Carlos Santana. He's on the Kansas City Royals now. He was on the Rangers.
That's right. He did sign a 1-year deal there. That's weird. That's so weird. Speaking of, Kansas City Royals, again, full circle. Hey, it all works out. I knew this. But now Carrasco being added to the Mets rotation, obviously they're getting Thor back. They're getting Stroman back. Which rotation would you rather have right now? Would you rather have the Mets rotation or would you rather have the Padres rotation? The Mets are going forward with DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman, Carrasco, and Steven Matz. And then the Padres are going forward with Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Dinelson Lamet, Chris Paddock, and Joey Lucchesi. What rotation would you rather have? I'll start with you, Sarge.
To be honest, I'm gonna have to go with the Mets because I know that they're veterans, and I think they can hold down the fort and at least get through 6 innings before they have to get into the bullpen. Yu Darvish, I know he has struggled at the beginning of his games. Like, I believe his ERA, like in the first 2 innings, was like 5 or something like that. It was a crazy number, but I would have to go with the Mets on this one.
Nate, are you going with the Padres or the Mets?
I'm going Padres because of Blake Snell. Like you said earlier when you talked about between Blake and you, I agree with you. I think Blake is going to have a better season. I think he's going to have a better season than you. I think he's probably going to have a better season than all of those pitchers. To be honest with you.
Whenever you said he's going to have a better season than you, I was thinking like, hey man, I'm not pitching. Leave me alone. But I remember what you mean. But whenever I'm looking at it, can I combine them? That'd be nice. That'd be dangerous. That might as well be the NL National League All-Star lineup. But I think I got to go with the Mets. I don't want to say that, actually. I don't know why. That gave me a weird taste in my mouth. Because I just know one of them is going to get hurt. It happens every year to the Mets, and it sucks. Syndergaard's coming back from an injury. Stroman's coming back after a year off. Give me the Padres. Give me the Padres. Just, I would take Jacob deGrom over any pitcher out of those 10. I'm taking Jacob deGrom easily. He's by far the most dominant pitcher in the league. But if we're talking 1 through 5, I got to go with the Padres. I know what the Padres can do. Chris Paddock had a rough season last year, but Dinelson Lamet really stepped into his own. Blake Snell, like I said, I think he's going to have something to prove this year. Yu Darvish is coming off the best season in his career. Joey Lucchesi was doing decent in a bullpen role. He wasn't seeing much starting time due to the Clevenger trade. But now that Clevenger is out and Davies is out from the Darvish trade, I can imagine that we'll see him again. So it'll be interesting to see. But it's a good question to ponder. They do have pretty similar rotations. They both have pretty dominant rotations. But all right, Lindor to the Mets as well as Cookie Carrasco. And then we actually had breaking news that came in just before the show, and I had to go ahead and add this one as all-star closer Liam Hendriks has currently signed a 3-year deal with the Chicago White Sox out in the AL Central. Yeah, I had said that we were going to get to the AL Central. Here we are. We had talked about it being up for grabs. The AL Central is now a very interesting division. The Minnesota Twins have lost Nelson Cruz and so far have not re-signed him. And I want to say Josh Donaldson's up for contract. They have a couple of names they need to bring back. The Cleveland Indians have decided to salary dump into the New York Mets. And now the White Sox are signing names. They got a new manager in Tony La Russa, has won a few World Series rings. Let's talk about the AL Central a little bit. Do you think with the addition of Liam Hendriks, are the White Sox the front runners in the AL Central? Nate, I'll start with you.
If you asked before this breaking news, I would say no. And that's only because La Russa hasn't managed a team in 9 years. But you add this guy in, and I think he will, because I don't know what's going on with Minnesota at the moment. I don't know until they get their contract situation figured out. If they lose Nelson, then Chicago is probably going to win it, and we all know that that Cleveland's not.
Fair enough. I mean, it'll be interesting to see that Indians team come out. I'm excited to see who even makes that roster. But Sarge, I'll turn it over to you. White Sox, are they the favorite in the AL Central, or is it somebody else?
I think it's somebody else. I don't know off the top of my head as of right now. Once we get closer to the season, then I can probably pinpoint a favorite. But I could definitely see the White Sox making a strong case for the wild card, because you got Jose Abreu there, Tim Anderson, and for some reason I just like the guy, Adam Eaton. I don't know why. I just like him.
Back with the White Sox for a second term, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll give them at least a wild card spot for right now. But once we get closer to the season, and if we do a pick show, then I'll definitely come into a better answer.
Reigning MVP Jose Abreu too. Mm-hmm. Shout out to him in the American League. He won the MVP out there, which is weird to say Mike Trout didn't win it. But hey, he didn't. Yay. Glad he didn't. Glad to give it to somebody else. Jose Abreu, a guy who deserves some love, honestly, in the MLB talks. Very underrated first baseman. People don't realize the kind of work he puts in and puts out, but that's because he was on a crappy White Sox team. Now the White Sox they're coming around. They made the wild card last year. They found their way into the postseason. I forgot who they matched up against in the first round, but
Athletics,
that is correct. I want to say they took the first game from the Athletics, and then the Athletics came back and won the next two to move on. And hey, look at that. Athletics came to the White Sox. So maybe Liam Hendriks saw something going on there in the postseason and saw something he liked. But the White Sox have been linked to a couple names as well. I know that they're heavily linked to Marcell Ozuna. The offseason is just really, honestly, it's just now starting to brew up. We're getting, which is weird to say it, the second week of January. Typically, it picks up around December due to winter meetings, but winter meetings being completely different this year with all COVID and everything like that, things are a little bit different. But now the stove's starting to heat up. See the Lindor trade. We're seeing Darvish and Snell. Now we're seeing a big name sign. Things are starting to move. We still need to see Real Muto sign somewhere. We still need to see Marcell Ozuna sign somewhere. Nelson Cruz could be an amazing bat still. He seems to age like wine. He's been phenomenal. I mean, it's just there's a lot going on. Right now, on paper, I'd take the White Sox to win the division. But a lot can change. I mean, obviously, Nate just took the Mets from 5th to 2nd in the division off of one trade. I mean, a lot can change, from a couple of moves. If the Twins find a way to bring back Cruz and bring back their players, Twins are right back up there. But, it's just a matter of time right now off of roster sake. And what I'm looking at, the big issue with the White Sox was that they didn't really have another arm to complement Bummer. Bummer was an amazing arm. They brought in Crochet at the end of the year, and he was pitching phenomenal. Unfortunately, he got hurt in the playoffs, and now Liam Hendriks is in there. So Crochet, Hendriks, and Bummer, I think will be a deadly 3-punch, and that just means your starters need to get through 6. And Lucas Giolito stepped into his own last year. He looked phenomenal. Luis Robert was up there for Rookie of the Year. Eloy Jimenez played a lot better. It's just a matter of time with this team. It really is. They're just very young, minus Jose Abreu, obviously being the veteran leader, and Adam Eaton. Congrats to him coming back. But Now they need to figure out who their catcher is. You know, they need to. It's Yasmani Grandal. What am I saying? I forgot he was there. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's going to be interesting to see how the young guys gel with Tony. Obviously, Tony off to a hot start, catching a DUI before he even coached a game for the White Sox. So shout out him. Love you, Tony La Russa. Went to my college, is an alum of my college, and also won me a couple World Series rings. Love the guy. And I think he's going to do fine. But I mean, there's always question marks. It's the Chicago White Sox. I mean, you can never be too confident. But I have a little bit of confidence going in with the White Sox this upcoming season. So. But that'll bring us to the end here on Sports Corner on Monday. We have reached the end of our topic. So any closing thoughts, Sarge, Nate, anybody have any final thoughts going into we're going into a few things. We're going into debate tomorrow between Sarge and Landon. We're going into divisional round of playoffs. We're with the hot stove's heating up. Any closing thoughts going in at the end of the show?
Well, first I want to say, Landon, I see that I'm going to get swept, but guess what, buddy? You're going to be doing push-ups and sit-ups after I'm done. All I'm going to say is that what are the Cubs doing? Exactly. What are they doing? Now they're trying to get rid of Chris Bryant. He's linked to the Mets already, and I believe they got rid of their their catcher, Will Contreras, I believe.
Wilson Contreras, yeah.
Yeah, well, I believe he signed with the Nationals today.
No way.
I saw something regarding that, but
there's no way I missed that.
Might have been close to a deal, but I just don't know what. I think the Cubs are tearing down and rebuilding.
There's no way I missed that. Now I have to look that up.
I could be wrong. Won't be the first time.
I'm gonna look that up too because I don't.
Okay, he's still under contract. Maybe they signed his brother. I think they had his brother in their farm system. Maybe that's what you were thinking.
Yeah, they look alike.
They do. I hear they're blood related. But Nate, any closing thoughts going into all this hectic week?
I don't think I ever brought this up. I won the NFL fantasy.
Hey, congratulations! That's a W. We love winners around here. Shout out to Nate.
So yeah, and that's all. That's my final thought.
That's a great final thought. Hey, I won. All right, but yeah, so congratulations to Alabama. Congrats on another national championship. I'm sure you've heard that one before. Really excited for these games going into divisional weekend. Don't forget, nobody circles the wagons. Go Chiefs. Shout out them. And I mean, I said the Bucs are going to win, but hey, go Saints because you guys beat us. And then forget you, Aaron Rodgers. I don't like you. Oh no, this is literally like the I hate you.
No,
this is Goff and Rodgers. I'm not gonna watch. But yeah, yes sir. Roll Tide, roll. There you go. Shout out Bama. But yeah, that'll be the closing thoughts. Here we're wrapping it up. So for Nate the Great and for Sarge, Sarge says he's gonna smoke you, Landon. So be ready to do push-ups and sit-ups. Be ready to run those miles. And don't forget to tune into that. Do you have the official time that's going to be kicking off, Sarge?
I believe it was 8 Eastern last time I heard. But stay tuned.
Make sure not to miss that. You're not going to want to miss it. Two guys who have never debated before on this network. You will get to see their debuts of debating here as Sarge will be taking on Landon tomorrow night at a point. If you see an ASAP went live and it's not Jock Talk, it's probably that. So go ahead, go catch that, and we will see you guys all in the next one. Take it easy.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.